Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the Teradek Vidiu-X. And this is a streaming box that allows you to take some HDMI video and put it out over your favorite streaming providers. And you might be wondering, why do you need a streaming box? Well, the answer is that in many cases you don't, just because a lot of software and hardware solutions out there now integrate streaming. But what's neat about this box is that it incorporates a service layer called Sharelink. And what it lets you do is take 3 different internet connections and bond them together. So if you're in a situation where you've got poor Wi-Fi or a poor cellular signal, it will automatically balance out the load. So no matter what the connection conditions are on any individual connection, you'll be able to maintain your stream throughout. And I'll demo how this works in a few minutes. Now we're going to take a look at the hardware first, but before we do, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, this is on loan from Teradek. So when we're done with this, it goes back to them. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this box is all about. Now the price point on this is $699. It is pricey, but this is the least expensive bonded streaming box that Teradek manufactures. And it's actually pretty simple from a hardware standpoint. You do have some controls here on the front, and I'll show you what this screen looks like when we plug everything in. On the side here, you have an SD card slot for recording whatever you're streaming out locally to the box itself. On the back here, you've got 2 HDMI plugs here. One is the input and another is the output. So you could run your input into here and then have a monitor connected to the output so you can see what's going on. Right here you have an audio input for analog audio. You can pull audio in over the HDMI or plug your soundboard into that directly if you want. You have Ethernet here. This is gigabit Ethernet. And then you've got your USB Type-C connector here for power. There is a reset button here for resetting its settings. And then on the right-hand side is a USB port, and this is used to connect up cellular modems. And as part of their loaner package here, they sent me this Alcatel device here that just plugs into the side. Now it also has Wi-Fi 6 built in, so what you could do is connect up a USB modem to one carrier, like AT&T for example, and then maybe connect the Wi-Fi to a mobile hotspot from Verizon or T-Mobile and be able to transmit out with your bonded connection over 2 different carriers to give yourself a little bit more service reliability. I did some testing earlier with my iPhone's hotspot and it worked fine with that, and I was able to do a bonded connection through the cellular connection here, the Ethernet at my home, and Verizon over the Wi-Fi. There's a lot of different ways you can connect it, and again, all 3 connections can send your video out to the Sharelink service simultaneously. Now the maximum resolution and frame rate is 1080p at 60 frames per second. You've got a max bit rate of 15 megabits per second, and this box will only do H.264 compression. There is a box above this one called the Vidiu Go that connects up to a more advanced version of the Teradek service that also supports HEVC, but this one is limited to H.264 only. All right, so I've got the box now connected to power and booted up. I have a camcorder connected over HDMI to the input on here. That camcorder is outputting 1080p at 30 frames per second. By the way, there is a little tripod mount here at the bottom of the box if you wanted to attach it up to a shoe mount with an adapter or something like that. Now, one thing to note here is that you're going to see a Wi-Fi and a cellular signal strength indicator. These are not actually signal strength indicators. They just indicate that it has a Wi-Fi signal and that it has a modem attached. So right now in the studio, this is a really weak area of my house for cellular connections, and I can assure you that I do not have a full-strength cellular signal. And you'll actually see this drop in and out while we're recording here. So you should definitely rely on your modem signal strength indicator to figure out how good your signal is, not what you see here on the front. And I think the same applies to the Wi-Fi as well. Now, what I like about this is that I get a IP address of what the Wi-Fi access point and router has assigned to the Teradek box. And I can use this address to connect up its mobile app or connect up to its web-based control panel, or both if you want. I prefer the web-based control panel just because it has more room to configure everything and I can use my mouse versus touch screens. But the mobile app has all of the same functionality, just in a more squished layout here. So we're going to stick to the web version, but know that the mobile app will give you a similar experience. Now, right now, I've got it connected to Sharelink, but I could have it go direct to any one of these services here, including RTMP and RTSP providers. We'll take a look at the Sharelink interface in a minute, though, so you can see how to get things set up over there. I can configure my recordings below that. You have your input settings here for encoding. So right now I'm set to 1080p at 5 megabits per second. You can have it automatically select the frame rate, or you can dial that in directly. You also can set your keyframe intervals and your audio formats here as well. You do have some degree of audio volume that you can set based on what's coming in. And if you wanted to use the analog audio versus the HDMI, you would make that setting here. And then in the network section, you can go in and verify that your network devices are connecting properly. So as you can see here, our Wi-Fi is connected along with the cellular modem, but I don't yet have my Ethernet attached, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then in the system settings here, you've got all of your usual stuff for firmware updates and import and export of settings and all that kind of stuff. But what I want to do now is move over to Sharelink, and right now I have got my Sharelink account attached. And the interface here looks very similar, but it does different things. So right now, as you can see, it is receiving some video from our Vidiu unit. We're sending video up to the server here at about 5 megabits per second as we dialed in. It's a little bit higher because there's some audio going in along with that. Now, Sharelink will take that single stream that I'm sending into the Sharelink service and then send it out to multiple other providers. And right now, I just have my extras channel here on the list of available channels, but I could add more that I've already configured. So I could send video to Amazon and to my Facebook group here, add those to the mix. These have been configured earlier, and that will send to all three when I start broadcasting. I could go individually just by clicking on these Go Live buttons, or I could click this button here and go live to all three. And I could also initiate that from the box itself using the control panel here. And if you want to add more channels to your account, you go over to the Channels button and you can click on Add New Channel, and you can select a Twitch channel, for example. You could do an RTMP connection, a Facebook or a YouTube. Pretty much anything you want to do, you can add it. And I believe Sharelink will let you transmit to as many different sources as you want at the same time. The one thing to note here, though, is that whatever this box is encoding is what Sharelink is going to stream out. So earlier I was playing around with doing a Facebook and YouTube stream at the same time out of this box, and when I was doing that, Facebook was telling me it only wanted a 720p output, not a 1080p, but you can't do a stream-by-stream specific encoding. That's something you can do on the more expensive Vidiu Go, but on this device you're limited to streaming out only what you are encoding from here, so just be aware of that. But most providers these days should be able to take a 1080p 5 megabit connection, minus Facebook, of course, but otherwise you should be ready to go there. Now, what I want to show you next here is how you can monitor the health of your connection. So I'm going to go over here to this gear icon. And if you look here, you can see that right now the Wi-Fi is sending a bulk of the signal, and the USB modem is scraping along here at about 120K. We're not getting much signal strength down here in the basement. Now what I'm going to do real quick is lean down here and get my Ethernet cable, and I'm now going to plug the Ethernet into the port. Now at my house here I actually have two distinct internet connections. So my Wi-Fi that we're connected to, this Netgear, is actually on a different circuit from Comcast than the one that the Ethernet is on. And now that I've connected that Ethernet, watch what happens. It's going to start basically lightening the load of the Wi-Fi. It's going to split that signal pretty much right in half so that they're sharing the output. And what we're going to do now is start a stream out to my extras channel on YouTube, and we're going to let that run for a minute or two, and then I'm going to just pull the Ethernet cable out to simulate a network cut in the middle of our production, and we'll see if the stream can maintain itself even when it loses one of its connections. All right, so I'm going to push the button here to go live, but I could, of course, just do this on my computer screen if I wanted to. And now things are starting up here, and I'll go back over to our control panel, and you can see here that the extras channel is getting a signal. I could stop it here if I wanted to, but we're not going to do that because we actually want to see if this is working. And now what I'm going to do is go over to my YouTube control panel, and you can see that we are streaming. And if I go to the stream health, it is telling me that everything is healthy. All is good. Now what I want to do is pull back up our thing here from the Sharelink service and look very closely at our connection strength. You can see that it's pretty much splitting everything up between the Wi-Fi and the wired connection. But what I'm going to do now is pull out the Ethernet cable, just take it away, and you'll see that the wired connection here is going to drop off immediately, and the Wi-Fi should pick up the slack, which it just did. And now that we're going totally over Wi-Fi, I'm curious to see if the health of our connection took an impact here, but no, we have no warnings on our stream here, and I think all is good from the streaming standpoint. We didn't lose anything. But now let's take a look at what YouTube recorded when I pulled the Ethernet cable out. So what I'm going to do now is pull out the Ethernet cable, just take it away, and you'll see that the wired connection here is going to drop off immediately, and the Wi-Fi should pick up the slack, which it just did. And now that we're going totally over Wi-Fi, I'm curious to see if the health of our connection took an impact here, but no, we have no warnings on our stream here. So let's reconnect that Ethernet cable now and see what happens. We'll just go ahead here and pop it into the back, and hopefully we'll see those lights light up there on the back of the unit. And with any luck, we will start seeing the control panel indicate the presence of the wired connection again. What I'm going to do, though, is just jump back to the, oh, there it is. Yep, wired is showing up here on the list, and now it's starting to split the load up again, and all is good. At least it looks like all is good. And let me jump over to the streaming health here, and again, nothing has happened on the streaming side. And for good measure, let's go back to the YouTube stream and see how it reacted when we plugged the Ethernet back in. What I'm going to do, though, is just jump back to the, oh, there it is. Yep, wired is showing up here on the list, and now it's starting to split the load up again, and all is good. At least it looks like all is good. And let me jump over to the streaming. And there you go. You can see how everything was working even though we had connections dropping in and out, and you can get a feel for how things might work even if your connections get a little unstable but remain in place. It's very good at managing that bonded connection, but again, that's got to go through the Sharelink service for you to get that bond. Now what I can do here to stop the stream is push the button here on the front just like we did to start it, or I could go to the control panel here and stop it from the Vidiu's control panel, or I could go over to the Sharelink service and stop it from here. One advantage of doing the Sharelink one is that you could stop an individual stream. So if we had 3 different channels going, I could choose to just stop one of them, for example, and we'll go ahead and stop that now. And so now you'll notice that data is still going into the Sharelink server, but it's not streaming out from Sharelink. So you have the ability to make sure that you've got a healthy stream going up to them before you start your production. So that's something I would suggest you do, is get everything set up, plugged in, and start transmitting to Sharelink maybe a half hour before you begin, just so you know you've got a healthy data stream going up to the server. And over the weekend, when I was helping my brother get his Starlink satellite internet service set up, we actually did a stream from the Vidiu-X using Starlink direct to YouTube without using the Sharelink service, and everything worked fine on a direct connection as well. Now again, in order to use the bonding feature, you do have to go through the Sharelink service. There is a pay-as-you-go plan, and there's also 2 subscription options available. Now, at the time I'm recording this video, this is what the pricing looks like. It's $2 a gigabyte on the pay-as-you-go plan. That does not, though, come with a monthly fee. It is just what you use. And they only charge you for what you stream out. So when you're sending data into Sharelink, that is free. It's only when you start broadcasting that you start getting billed. And again, you're getting billed for what is going out to YouTube, Facebook, and other providers, not what's coming in. And you can see what the pricing looks like there. If you do more than the basics here, you might want to look at their subscription plan. They've got a $25 per month plan that comes with 50 gigabytes of data usage. And then there's a $50 a month plan with 125 gigabytes of data usage. and they also give you an indicator as to how much it will cost when you go beyond your allocation. They have a calculator up here too that's pretty helpful. And what I did is like dialed in one of my basic streams that I do to Amazon. So 2.5 megabits running for an hour will consume, they say, about 1.13 gigabytes. And you can see this is what they'll charge you, about $2.26 if we're doing the on-demand plan. And it looks like, too, that they bill you in increments of a gigabyte as well. So if you just go slightly over a gigabyte, you're not going to pay for the next one. So take a look at the calculator and figure out what your data usage might be. You should also factor in the cost of using cellular modems and the per gigabyte charges you might encounter there. And from that, you can figure out what your cost might be if you're an independent content creator like me, or perhaps what your client might be paying to stream something out from the field. But I like the peace of mind that a bonded connection gets you, because if somebody were to knock the modem out, you still have your Wi-Fi and Ethernet to fall back on, and I think that's something really critical when you're out doing a mission-critical stream in the field. No connection is ever fully stable, and if you've got 3 of them going at once, there's a good chance that at least one of them will stay up. And maybe if you can't sustain the bit rate, you might see a drop in quality a little bit, but for the most part, your stream will stay live. And one issue that I had here at the house for many years was that my upstream from Comcast was very unreliable, and I would drop out for 10 or 15 seconds at a time, and that was enough for YouTube to dump out my stream and kill the entire connection to my audience. So this is something that gets you some peace of mind, and sometimes that might be worth paying for. So overall, I found it to be a very nice piece of hardware. I've had a lot of experience with Teradek's products over the years. I own a couple of their older streaming boxes and have always found them to be rock solid and have recommended them to others. This does have a cooling fan on it, so it will make a little bit of noise. So you may want to locate it a little bit further away from your talent if you're trying to keep a pretty quiet set. It does get a little warm to the touch, but not alarmingly so. And I found it to be a good solution if you're looking for a lower priced bonded connection option. Both the price of the hardware and the service that it connects to is pretty reasonable, I think. It is a little bit on the simpler side of things, so if you want more advanced features, you're going to have to go up to the more expensive Vidiu-Go or some of their other higher end solutions. But if you're just doing simple stuff like I do, I think this is not a bad way to go if you are in need of a more reliable way to stream when you're on the road. That is going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Jim Peter, Tom Albrecht, Frank Lewandowski, Mark Bollinger, and Chris Allegretta. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.